some people say that this lets Facebook off too easy because the percentage, even of this $5 billion, doesn't represent the gain that Facebook got from this business model. What do you say?
Look, I think that this level of fine is unprecedented, but almost more importantly, the level of controls and other conditions is really also unprecedented. The combination makes it somewhat unusual. Let's get the scale of this kind of right. Now, Equifax was decided earlier last week, okay? And for the number of users who were affected, that was about $4,800 per user. This is $27,000 per user. I can't help thinking any company has to stand up and take notice of that.
Roger, these restrictions, the setup of the independent privacy committee, even your face looks unimpressed at even this privacy committee. Why?
Because Facebook is given too much control in the process of deciding what is compliance and what is not.
Okay.
In many ways, it mirrors the 2011 consent decree in that Facebook has essentially a meaningful role in deciding what qualifies as compliance and what does not. And in my mind, with all due respect to my dear friend here, I don't think this does anything to change incentives. And because it doesn't change incentives, it won't change behavior. And the issue in my mind is more than an antitrust problem. You know, FTC Commissioner Rohit Chopra posted a tweet this morning, which he made, to me, the core point, which is that the issue we're really fighting about here is surveillance capitalism. What are people's rights to make their own choices, to have, you know, to live in a world where they're not completely immersed in somebody else's economic sphere. And this doesn't go to that. I'm with my friend here on the really important point that this is not nothing. $5 billion is real money. It is a shot across the bows. I just wish there had been a lot more teeth in the back end, in the future behavior. This provides, I don't totally understand what it means, but there's a whole thing about immunity for past indiscretions that I'm looking at and going, wait a minute here. I think we really need to understand everything that's going on. You know, I think if you're a shareholder of Facebook, you love this outcome, which is how the market has taken it, because you know, they can afford $5 billion, and how many years did it take to get here, right? I mean, they're not going to get fined $5 billion a month, which is what it would take to change their behavior.
Ms. Al, what will it take to get the FTC more clout to perhaps put in some regulations with more teeth? There's been some suggestions that the FTC is outmatched here. When you read about some of the reporting about what went on behind closed doors, Facebook lawyers threatening to bring this thing to court, is the FTC outmatched?
Let me tell you something. Every single defendant brings their big guns to the FTC looking for a defense. That doesn't surprise me. And government is always going to be smaller than the industries that they actually regulate. But it's important to understand it's an enforcement agency, not a regulatory agency. And while I have great respect for you, Roger, I think there's a big difference between when you're talking about a surveillance culture, that may actually be a much broader question that not only is online advertising, offline advertising, it has to do with how we use advertising in the United States.
And it's going to require new laws in order to regulate it. It's beyond the purview of the FTC, I'll give you that one.
And that may indeed be possible, and that's a great place for debate on Congress and in the public sphere. But I don't think that's what this is, and I don't think, and that's with all due respect to Commissioner Chopra, I don't think that that's what the role of this particular proceeding was about.
And so I'm completely in agreement with you on that, and I just think it's too bad that it wasn't about more, because the issues that we're dealing with here are relative to public health, relative to democracy, relative to people's privacy, relative to competition, are affecting the entire economy. They're affecting our society and our democracy really profoundly. And at some point, we either have to confront these issues or we lose the opportunity. And the FTC, to its credit, stood up and did something. I just wish we had more leverage in the situation. You know, I wish the government had more leverage. I wish that we as citizens had more leverage.
Well, you're talking about it in the past tense like this is done, and it's not. So Are your hopes for more out of Justice or Congress?
Oh, no, for certain. Oh, no. I mean, I think there's a lot of good news out there. You know, FTC's gone first. 3 cheers to them for doing something. The antitrust division of the Justice Department is looking mostly, I think, at Google and at some others, but very important. If you're going to go after the business model of surveillance capitalism, Google's the place to start.
But how do you do that? Because, I mean, surveillance capitalism sounds really bad, and I'll admit
it is really bad.
Yeah, I'm as paranoid as the next guy. I don't have an Echo in the house or any of that. But the number of things that you end up outlawing potentially under surveillance capitalism goes to the heart of the business model of Amazon and its recommendations and its listening devices, Facebook, Google, as you mentioned, YouTube getting swept up in. I mean, a lot of companies in market cap potentially end up getting swept up in surveillance capitalism.
And it's more than that. It's even how we look at advertising in the United States generally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay? And so if you're going to go back to first principles and look at that, that's going to be a much, much broader discussion and more than we have time for here.